Hello and welcome to the first in the brand new series, which is going to go through all the year, once a week, a shiur from the Alshich HaKodesh on the Parsha of the week. So this week's Parsha is Noso in Bamidbar. And the Alshich HaKodesh, just in case you're not familiar with him, I have studied him since I was a teenager, and he is by far my favorite commentator on the Torah. He was born in Turkey. His father and family fled from Spain at the time of the expulsion, arrived in Turkey, and from Turkey, eventually Moshe Alshich, who had most of his early education obviously there, moved to Sfas during the golden age of Sfas. He was one of the few, and incidentally, he was born in 1508, and he lived to 1593 using the non-Jewish calendar, and he moved to Sfas. He became the Avbeistin of Sfas. He writes that his first love was the Talmud. He was obviously a Baal Halacha. I have in my shelves behind me his Shilas and Shuvas, his rabbinic responsa for people who asked halachic questions. He was one of the few who was called HaKodesh, Rashi HaKodesh, the Orachaim HaKodesh, the Shloh HaKodesh, the Ari HaKodesh, and the Alshich HaKodesh. He was an incredibly high level. His Talmidim are very, very famous. The Arizal was a Talmud of the Alshich. He was his Gemara Talmud. And his Reb Chaim Vital was a Talmud of the Alshich. His life was quite astonishing. Interestingly, at this time, I'm recording this on a Friday morning, this was the time when the only time in the week when he was able to devote himself to the Parsha and the Midrashim and the deep insights of the Parsha. These, he would say in the Shabbos afternoon and show, and they became eventually collected as his the Alshich on the Chumash, and of course in Tanakh as well. So that's what we're going to be studying. He's very unique in as much as his incisive, incredibly interested, questioning mind, curious mind, looks at every single posuk, knowing of course that the author of the book is Hashem Yisbarach himself, written down by Moshe Rabbeinu, then every single word and every single letter is important. It's there to teach us something, and he notes very carefully when the words don't seem to be right, when it's in the wrong tense, the wrong gender, etc., etc. Anything that seems to be odd with the posuk, and he wants to know why, and then he dips into all the books you can see in my shelves behind me, and others, or rather he doesn't dip into them because he had them at his fingertips, and gives an explanation. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. The Alshich, the first year of the Alshich HaKodesh. This is sponsored in the name of somebody called Rabbi Yonah ben Esther. And if you would like to sponsor the weekly Alshich shiur on Torah anytime, then if you simply get in touch with me at yy@rabbiyyy.com, yy@rabbiyyy.com, then I'll be able to talk to you about sponsorships, and you can sponsor it and dedicate the shiur, or rather I'll dedicate the shiur for you for somebody who's passed away, somebody you loved, a grandparent, or whoever it will be. Good, so let's see what we can do. Now, because the Alshich, more than anybody else, I think it would be fair to say, analyzes very, very carefully the words of the Posukim, then it's going to be important for you, if you're going to be part of this, every week to have a Chumash, perhaps the art scroll Chumash in front of you, so that you can look in. And if you can have the art scroll with English, that would be very useful. My old Rebbe, Rabbi Yonah Balkan, who was the first person who, I'm not sure what the word, I was going to say infected me, but that sounds negative and pejorative, inspired me to become interested in the Alshich. He very often would go through, using, I think it was the Sensino Chumash, seeing what the English translation was there and pointing to the Alshich differing interpretation and comparing and contrasting, which was very useful. So it might be a nice idea if you could get hold of, for the weeks to come, the art scroll Chumash. Here's a little one here, which we'll use. And I mean, this, like all sharing, brand new sharing, it will evolve. I will be sharing the screen in a few moments to let you see on the page that what we're actually discussing, what we're looking at. And when we do so, you'll be able to take a screenshot if you're very good at that sort of thing, and then you can keep it for later. But I will show you exactly how we're doing this. That's the wonders of Zoom. The Sedra of Noso. Well, there's lots of things in the Sedra of Noso, and obviously Birchas Kohanim is there. But one of the most intriguing parts of the Torah, and it's intriguing because it's very, very unusual, is when the heads of all the Shvatim, all the tribes, bring their gifts for the dedication of the Mishkan. And what's interesting about it, and what's unique about it, is the fact that they all bring precisely and exactly the same gift. Now, Rashi goes into great length as to the significance, the mystical significance of why they chose those gifts, what the weights of those gifts are, the figure that the weight produces, which hints at other things, other people like Odom Orishan. Why it was all very, very calculated with mystical ideas very, very much to the fore when they offered these things, but they all offered precisely the same thing. And of course, if you look at the Mikras Gedolos Chumash, I'll have one here, then you'll see something very unusual. Normally, there is a Mikras Gedolos, and you can see there the bold is oops, wrong way. That's the Chumash, of course, and there's all the commentators on a page. Ooh, lots and lots of things to say. Until it comes to the various Shvatim, the various tribes, who bring their offerings. On the Seder of Noso, what's very unusual in the whole Seder is all the commentators flee from the page. And they flee from the page because there's almost nothing to say. There. Look, lots and lots of Chumash, not so much commentary, just more Chumash. And the reason is because they're all doing the exact same thing. They're all giving the exact same thing. So once we commented on one, we really have commented on all of them. The Alshich is not quite so sure about that, but to understand what's going on here, I'm going to read a little bit to you. We don't have to look and dip in yet to the text, because I have to set the scene before we start looking at the Parsha the way the Alshich does. So they all brought identical offerings and gifts for the Mishkan, for the tabernacle, the predecessor of the Beit HaMikdash. And here it says, in the commentary of the Kli Yoker. Kli Yoker is a very similar style to the Alshich. Asks 2 or 3 questions and gives often very, very, very beautiful and brilliant insights. And here is one which I think is very well worth our attention. I've used this, incidentally, as a rabbi many, many times, particularly when you find conflict in communities and, saddest of all, conflict in families. Here is what he says. He's commenting, he's focusing on the fact that all of the heads of the tribes, they brought identical offerings so as not to arouse jealousy. There shouldn't be any conflict. Oh, the tribe of Yehuda brought a much, much more expensive, luxurious offering for the dedication of the temple than you. It was not one outdoing the other. In order that no jealousy and no animosity should be engendered by this process, but there should be shalom there, then as a consequence, they all agreed to bring the exact same thing. And the Orach Chaim said they all wanted to bring it on the same day. But Hashem says to Moshe, no, let them bring it day after day, even though it's the same thing. They have their day, they have their moment, even though they're doing the exact same thing. Now, that's an idea which we're going to be going into, but let me read to you the Kli Yoker here. Very important. But here, Makrab B'Yam Rishon, so when it talks about who brought on the first day, which was in the tribe of Yehuda, he says, some of Parsha Zu L'Berchas Kalim, the piece in the Chumash, the piece in the Torah before the offering of the heads of the tribes, and the scene, princes of the tribes, was the blessing that the Kohanim give. Of course, Yirech Hashem Yishmerecho, everybody knows the famous when you come to Shul, in Eretz Yisrael, of course, it's every day, in Chutz La'aretz, it's in Yom Tov. The Kohanim, the priest, blessed the Jewish people. And it's interesting, the wording, because it says, as I said before, Yirech Hashem Yishmerecho, Yor Hashem Panav Elecha. Hashem should bless you and he should keep you or guard you. Hashem should make his face shine towards you. Isa Hashem is Panav Elecha, V'Yisim B'Rashanim, and Hashem should give you shalom, peace. The crown of all the blessings is the word shalom, because everything that comes before, if there's no shalom, then it's no good. And that's what the Kli Yoker points out here. That's why he says it talks about the because Kani next to the bring of the offering of the heads of the tribes, they brought identical gifts, so there should be shalom, so there should be no fighting. And listen to this, tremendously, tremendously interesting, the one that I've used, hopefully to diffuse many a fight in a community or a family. For Yom Od, and not only that, the Medrash Rabbah, he says, continuing, I've missed out a bit, Godel HaShalom, how great is Shalom? Sha'afilah HaMesim tzrichim loi. Even the dead need Shalom. As it says, and the Pasuk says, Va'ata tova el avasechem b'shalom. Pasuk Bereshis Tesvav, and chapter Tesvav, 15, verse 15. And you will come in peace to your parents. That means grandparents and those who've gone before you are waiting for you in heaven. Eina perish. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean to say that in heaven there's fighting and arguments and conflict like there is down here. No, that's absolutely not true. There is no fighting and no conflicts in heaven. So what does it mean that the dead also need peace? It's not that they're fighting with each other. Rather, he says, but the dead, the people who have gone to heaven, need and require there to be peace and shalom down here amongst the Jews down here, particularly their own children. Because if there is no peace amongst their children, grandchildren, then ad mehera yoretz tavorav l'charev alachayim is amazing. Offer that if conflict breaks out and spreads, then the dead watching their children fighting with each other or the grandchildren fighting with each other know no peace in the grave. That's what it means. And therefore he says that it's so important when the Medrash says that even the dead are not part of this world anymore. They are still connected to the world and the conflicts of the world, and particularly they are hurt. And it gives them as much pain, he writes, as watching their bodies decompose, which can't be a pleasant experience for any soul looking down at the body, which was his old friend turning into dust. It's the same sort of experience that a soul endures when their children are fighting. So peace is incredibly important. The bracha of Birkas Kohanim ends with peace, and the Nesim, the princes of the tribes, go to the nth degree in order to make sure that there is peace. Okay. So it seems to be just repetition. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that will come up. If I do that, and then I do this. I hope this is all working. Yes, it's going to bounce up and down at the bottom, and hopefully the screen will fail. Yes, the screen. I'm hoping you can see this. Oh, I'm hoping you can see this. Good. And if you can see this, it says the following thing. There's a repeating formula. And the person who brings his sacrifice on the first day was Nachshon ben Aminadab of Lamati Yehuda. There's something called Nachshon ben Aminadab, who was the prince of the tribe of Yehuda. But Kabono and his sacrifice was, I'll read to you the English here actually, we'll speed it up. His offering was 1 silver bowl, his weight was 130 shekels, and 1 silver basin of 70 shekels in the sacred shekel, both of them filled with fine flour mixed with oil for a meal offering. 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 sheep in his first year for an elevation offering, 1 he-goat for a sin offering, and for a feast peace offering, 2 cattle, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, 5 sheep in the first year. This is the offering of Nachshon ben Aminadab. Right. Now, I'm hoping you're seeing this on the screen. If not, trust me, the next bit is the exact same thing, or seems to be. Let's read that. On the second day, your photographic memory, I'm sure, has kept all those things in mind: silver dishes and he-goats. On the second day was Nasano ben Sur. He was the leader of the tribe of Yisachar. He brought the offering of 1 silver bowl, so it was 130 shekels. We said that before. And mixed with oil for a meal offering, 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 sheep in his first year, an elevation of 1 he-goat, 1 for a sin offering, and for a feast peace offering, 2 cattle, 5 rams, 5 goats, 5 sheep in the first year. This is the offering of the son of Mansur. Same thing. They bring the exact same thing. And praying like crazy that you're actually seeing this. Then on the third day, it says, Vahi b'yom shlishi in the sea Lebanese Zvulun. Guess what? The exact same thing. And then on the 4th day for Reuben's tribe, and then the 5th tribe. And notice, no commentary, just because it's all a repetition. As the Alshich said, it could just said, this is what he brought, as did the others. Okay. Now, assuming you can see that, I suppose I'll have to experiment. But anyway, so basically, I could be holding the book up instead. But I'm assuming you can see this. Then let's analyze and look at it from the Alshich's point of view, because there are differences. There's no difference in what they brought. There are differences in who is described as doing the bringing. And the Alshich wants to point out a couple of differences here. The first one who's asked to bring, remember the Aracham said they wanted to bring the same day. Hashem says no. And it's in the order of how they traveled. So Yehuda comes first, the tribe of Yehuda comes first, and that's of course the royal tribe. And what does it say? So it says, who brings this? Who's the person who brings the sacrifice? Good. So it says it was Nachshon ben Aminadab, and it says Lamati Yehuda, and he was Vahi Makriv b'Yom Harishon Es Korbanoi Nachshon ben Aminadab Lamati Yehuda. Right. Let's jump down to the next one. B'Yom Hasheni Hikriv Nisana ben Sur Nasi Yisachar. So the first thing that the Alshich points out is that it doesn't point to Yehuda as being a Nasi, being a prince. It does say that about Nisanel, and then all the others, if I bring this up again, and hopefully you can see it, but Yom HaShlishi was Nasi Libnei Zevulun, the prince of the children of Zevulun. The fourth day, Nasi Libnei Reuven, the prince of the tribe of Reuven. Okay, so I'm scared that you're not seeing that, so I'm going to stop sharing, and just hopefully you didn't lose me for all that time and saw nothing else. But anyway, there are a number of differences, but not on what they brought, but how it describes the person doing the bringing. So I'll bring out my Alshich here. Usually 5 volumes, if you've never seen it before. Usually printed, well, these days it's 5 volumes. So I can't resist, I hope you don't mind, showing you something very interesting if I just go to my bookshelves behind. This is the first edition of the Alshich, published in Venice. what was the date of this publication? 1492, I think. Let me just check that for you. Published in, 1603. I'm saying 1404. 1603. This is published by the Alshich's son in Venice. It was a gift to me by somebody I was teaching Alshich to. And this was once owned by one of the authors of the Yalkut, Miriam Loez. It's covered in pigskin. The cover is pigskin, is perfectly kosher. And somebody bid for this in an auction for me, and but to actually touch something that was owned by the Alshich's son, and how many of those were actually printed at one time, I think it's pretty safe to assume he held it in his hand. It's very, very exciting. It's almost like touching the Alshich. Okay, let's see what he has to say in this. So he says a number of insights. And the first one is, as I said before, it doesn't, and when it comes to all the rest of them, it says the name of the person who's the head of the tribe. It says Nosi, he was the prince of that tribe. And the next one, the prince of the tribe who brought his offering was, and mentions his name. But when it comes to Nachshon ben Aminadab from the tribe of Yehuda, it doesn't mention his name at all. Or rather, sorry, it doesn't mention his princely status at all. It doesn't say the word Nasi. When it comes to the second, Nisanel, Ben Sor, it says, it doesn't say Nisanel bet lebnei Yisachar, Nisanel ben. It just says, Nisanel ben Sor was Nosi Yisachar, almost like, by the way, he was the prince. Rather than saying the prince of that tribe, he was the prince. Almost as though sort of like just a detail, when it should be the detail, the first item on his resume. So I want to read you what the Alshich says here. I think you'll find this interesting. I find it incredibly interesting. And he says, another answer. Now he's given one answer which I'm going to miss out, or we won't get through all the things we need to get through. Odi Tochen Alzeh. Bosum Lev El Omro Milas Lamati Yehuda, it says. So let's read what it says about our friend Nachshon ben Aminadab. V'yamakra b'yom harishon es kabona was Nachshon ben Aminadab lemati Yehuda, to the tribe of Yehuda. And he says, why does it say that? To jump a bit, he says, I'm going to explain these two questions. Why he's not referred to as being the prince of the tribe, and why it's to the tribe of Yehuda, which doesn't say to the other ones. It brings us into interesting insights. He quotes a Medrash Rabbah. Why should it be that Nashon ben Aminadab is so unusually distinguished to be the head of the tribe of Yehuda, who was the first one who was invited to bring their offering? And he says, Achini Omer Rabbi Sinazal, the Medrash Rabbah, quotes a Medrash Rabbah. If you're interested, it's in Medrash Rabbah, you Gimel. Ki Nashon Hikriv es Karbonoi al Shem Amalchus. Because, of course, he comes first because he represents the king. The tribe of Yehuda is the royal household of the Jewish people, and he is the head of the royal household of the tribe, which is the royal tribe. And therefore, it's appropriate for him to bring and come first. And the Sano al Shem HaTorah, and the Sano, who's the next one from the tribe of Yisachar, is because the tribe of Yisachar is the tribe of the Torah. Yisachar, their role within the Jewish people was that they were unique in their ability to learn Torah. They were the special scholarly tribe of the Jewish people, the Torah tribe of the Jewish people. Okay, so that's why they come first and second. Fine. And then he says, you do Malchus based David. Now, Nashon was one of these individuals who was a link in the chain of the Mashiach. From him, from the beginning of the journey of Mashiach to when he eventually comes for the building of the Beis Hamikdash, Nashon plays a crucial role. He's one of the crucial links in that chain. Why? So, well, the first reason is because he's a Ben Peretz. Now, if you remember Yehuda, when this famous story of Yehuda and Tamar, when Tamar has children, and children is the word, from that, what's called the Levirate marriage with Yehuda, with Yibum, with Yehuda, it's twins, twin boys. One is called Zarach and one is called Peretz. Who's the next link in the chain? Yehuda is certainly in a link in the chain of the Mashiach. The Mashiach has to be a descendant from the family of Yehuda for all sorts of complicated reasons. And therefore, but now he's got two sons. Having two sons, which one is the next link? And the answer is the next link in the chain, that's from Peretz. Nashon's the direct descendant of Peretz. Okay? In other words, not only is he royal from the royal family of Yehuda, but he's actually a direct link in the messianic chain. So he says, Peretz Tamar, and because he's from Peretz, the son of Tamar, so Nashon is the direct descendant. And you remember that very unusual, we will get to this, because we're now doing this every week, when we study the story of Yehuda and Tamar. But when he thinks that she is a Zoina, a harlot, don't be started by this, we will explain this in great depth in nearly a year's time. But when we get to that, we'll see that she, remember, says, you can only come to me on condition that you give me something as a deposit before you pay my wage. And she wants his signet ring, his staff, and his cloak, which Yehuda apparently leaves and then tries to get back and isn't able to do so, which leads to the dramatic climax when she's being taken out to be executed because they think she has committed adultery. The rest of the story, of course, is famous. And Yehuda says, no, I'm the father of the child. Why did she ask for those three things? Ben Peretz, Ben Tamar, Asher Shem, and Chasam Pesela, Mamate, who asked for the three things as a deposit. It says, Perushin, what the Medrash says, Perushin Shem Shehu Al Shevet Malchus. She asked for those three things because she knew and she wanted to be, after all, her father was the prophet Shem. She knew exactly what was going on. She wanted this union with Yehuda to bring the next link in the messianic line. Somebody who was going to be a king in the Jewish people. And indeed, the Medrash says an interesting thing. When she was in the bathhouse after having conceived that child, a woman bumped against her and said, be careful. What are you doing? I'm carrying the seed of the Messiah. I'm carrying kings within me. Interesting thing to say. No, she knew, because that's why she did what she did. She needed to conceive from Yehuda in order to bring the Mashiach. I say, but we'll deal with that when we come to it. Anyway, the point is that Nashon is descended from that line. So she intended from that marriage, that union with Yehuda, to produce children who would be part of the journey and the story of the Messiah. Again, Omer of Sinazal says, she said in And the bathhouse, the one I mentioned before, Al titchin b'karsi, don't push against my stomach. Ki malachim hu otoin, I'm carrying kings. Another reason why Nashan is so unusual. Now, this is the famous story. Everybody knows this story about Nashan ben Aminadav. The Jewish people come to the splitting of the Red Sea. When they stand there with an Egyptian army charging towards them, then Moshe davens to Hashem. When he davens to Hashem, help the Jewish people because they are in deep trouble. Hashem says, why are you davening? It's not the time to daven. And that's an important message in its own right. There is times to daven and times not to daven. And the Alshich is there that when you daven, you ask Hashem to examine your account. And sometimes your account's empty, you're in the red. Here Hashem says, don't daven, do something. Now is the time to make a deposit in your heavenly account in order to be able to draw on it and generate the miracle that's going to save you. Go into the sea. And at that point, the Jewish people is smitten with an outbreak of English gentlemanliness. Everyone turns to the and says, after you. No, I insist, after you. And nobody wants to go into the sea. And along comes Nashan ben Aminadav, this Nashan. And he jumps in and he goes into the water until it reaches to his nostrils and he calls out to Hashem. This heroic act is enough to merit him being a link in the chain of the Jewish people and to come as the prince of the tribe of Yehuda to make and offer their gift to the dedication of the Mishkan. Now, I'm going to swerve from the Alshich for a second, because I can't resist telling what Reb Chaim Shmulevitz in his wonderful Sefer Sichos Musa says here, because he points to a very, very obvious truth. What's so special about Nashan is what the Alshich's asking, and it might be in what I've just told you, or what he's just told you, you might make the mistake of assuming that he was heroic, because he did something heroic. Our concept of heroism and what is heroic is very, very different to the world. This is not the Greek myths with people like Hercules and these sorts of folk, not at all. What's heroic in Jewish terms is very, very different. And this is the question Reb Chaim Shmulevitz asks. Why didn't they go in? Jewish history is full. Your families, if you're watching this, will have predecessors who gave up their lives to die for the sake of their peoplehood, their religion, their attachment to Hashem, rather than compromise that attachment to their peoplehood, their beliefs, and to Hashem. Unfortunately, I think that's the right word, unfortunately, martyrhood, or martyrdom, I should say, martyrdom is a common feature of Jewish history in almost every Jewish family. And here, suddenly, they all become English gentlemen. Nobody wants to go into the water. Until along comes Nachshon ben Aminadav, and he dashes in there bravely. And because he does that, he gets all sorts of nice rewards. I mean, why didn't they want to go in? Why didn't they want to go into the water? So here is the answer of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. He said, if the command had been to give up your life for your belief, for your people, for Hashem, jump into the water and die, Jews would have done that. Jews gave up their lives to die in much worse ways than that throughout Inquisition, throughout Crusades, and throughout Cossack tachvatats, etc., and of course during the Holocaust. But that wasn't what was being asked. The interesting thing was, you were supposed to go into the water because it's not there. You're supposed to see it as though there is no sea. You're supposed to be, if Hashem says, walk through that sea, you can walk through the sea. You can't walk through water. Yes, you can, because Hashem says you can. You're supposed to be in a level to see that the water is not going to affect you at all. Why? Because Hashem said not. That's a very high spiritual level. And he gives a beautiful story to illustrate this. He says, imagine there is a German army advancing maybe at the First World War in the Eastern Front. The cannon shells are falling in a town or a village. A young Jewish woman gathers her baby in her arms and starts to rush out of the town towards the east. She runs across some fields. She comes to a forest. She climbs into this forest. It gets deeper and deeper. The trees become more dense. She comes to the end of the forest, which is at the foot of a mountain. She climbs over this mountain to get to the top, gets to the snow-covered top and comes down the other side where there is another river to cross, and there is a valley with another town or another Jewish village where she's able to save herself from the advancing German troops. Ask Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, if at any point in that journey you were to ask the child, where are you now? When she grabbed the child and took him through the wheat fields towards the forest, or when the forest became darker and darker, the more she moved into it, and colder and wetter, then where are you now? Or at the top of the mountain, where are you now? If you asked all these questions at any point in the journey of the baby, what would the baby answer? I'm in my mother's arms. I'm in my mother's arms. That's the perspective that Nachshon ben Aminadab had. If Hashem says we're going to walk through the sea, then we're walking through the sea. I'm in my mother's arms. That's why he becomes the head of the tribe of Yehuda. That's why he becomes a link in the chain of the Mashiach. It's a matter of heroism over his faith and the intensity and degree of his trust in Hashem, his betochen. Not that he jumped heroically into the sea. That's typical Jewish behavior. And it's not part of our culture to spend a lot of time lauding that. That's Greek. That's, Titans fighting with, women with snakes coming out their heads and things like that. Jorgen knots and stuff. That's not us. We are interested in the relationship with Hashem and the intensity of a relationship with Hashem. Nashon men amidono. The intensity of a relationship with Hashem is huge, is enormous. That's what makes him great and special. He goes into the water up till his nose. He didn't get to his chin and say, well, this is not working out, and try and turn around. No, he keeps going. No, it's up covering his mouth. He's got complete faith in Hashem. And when it comes to his nose, then he's help. Boom. And Hashem does the miracle for Klal Yisrael. Astonishing stuff. And that's Nachshon ben Aminadab. So then he says, listen, I'll read a little bit more to you. And he says the following thing. Ki mikol ze yor, from all that story we find about with regards to Nachshon, milvadi yasim Yehuda, apart from the fact that he comes from the tribe of Yehuda, which has always his primacy because of the royal tribe and the king comes first and all that stuff, Uroy el Malchus, he was worthy of being the king of the tribe, Mefes Atzma Mikol B'nei Shiftoi, in his own right, more than any other member of the tribe. Zula Sayasanasi, apart from the fact he was the prince, he was given the appointment, he was given the role, the office of prince, but his greatness as who and what he is, independent of that office and that role, independent of representing the tribe of Yehuda, was great and equal to those other things in its own right. That he's going to say is why it doesn't say that he's the prince. No other ones it mentions they're the prince of the tribe, but not with him. Because if you mention somebody's the prince of the tribe, it's trying to tell you, or it's obviously telling you, that his importance is that he's the prince, he's the president, he's the prime minister, he's the king. But that means to say the office gives him importance. Nachshon was important without the office. In fact, his importance obliterates the importance of the office, or eclipses, perhaps is a better word. Let me read a bit more of the Alshich to you. Let me go into this in depth, says the Alshich. Okay, Yishroi, and there's 3 levels he wants to say, 3 levels. 1, Yishroi al Kobad Mifas Atzmai. There are some people who are worthy of prestige, recognition, and salute because of what they've done in their lives, not because of their office. At the Vilna Gaon, who was greater than the Vilna Gaon? What position did he hold in Klal Yisrael? None. He wasn't the rabbi of a synagogue. He wasn't a Rosh Yeshiva. Yeah, his greatness was him. And that's what drew people to him and inspired people to learn from him. It wasn't the office that he held. The chief rabbi of whatever it is. Well, that's very impressive. Why? Because he's the chief rabbi. It's the other way about it. The chief rabbi is important because of who he is. The office of chief rabbi can be important because of the person who occupies it, or the person can be important because he occupies the office. So he says, 1, the person can be great in their own right. 2, it could be equal. But yesh shakulim tzitzorech el kovod shifta v'shifta love. It could be that your greatness enhances and complements and gives splendor to your tribe, or the splendor flows in the opposite direction from your tribe and gives kavod, gives honor to you. And there are some people who've got no innate greatness. They might be great people, but not super greatness, and it flows from the fact that they represent the tribe. With those three perspectives in mind, so let me repeat them. You're so great that you're the source of honor and splendor. Or the thing that you represent, you're equally great. Or you're not so great, but you're given greatness because you've been appointed to a certain office, like you're the chief rabbi. Wow, he's the chief rabbi. Okay, so he says the following thing. The Yesh V'Shifta Rabban Gemaisa, and sometimes the tribe gives honor to you. Omar Hine, the Yehuda, with regards to Yehuda, Mibli Yos and Nashim Nosi, apart from the fact that he was the prince, Nashim was prince, Roy El Kovet HaMalchus Mitzad Atzma, he was worthy of being a king in his own right. Kihu Miyuchad B'Shifta, he was the unique one of that great tribe. But there, not a first amongst equals, someone who superseded the equals. Oh, well, the others. And when it says that he brought the sacrifice, he was the one who brought it. Without mentioning that he's a Nosi, because he superseded the idea of Nosi. That's why it doesn't say he's a Nosi. The reason that he's so special, the Nashon Lamati Yehuda. Says a Nashon from the tribe of Yehuda. From the tribe of Yehuda. Yehuda's greatness was the fact that he was their prince. That way round. When it comes to the next one, that's the tribe of Yisachar and Sanel, then it mentions that he's a prince. But it doesn't say it in the same formula it uses with the rest. With regards to the rest, it says, the Noso B'nei Yisrael, the prince of the tribe of Zevulun, was Eliyahu ben Chelon. That means his greatness was that he represented them. The office gave him greatness. And similarly, Yom Ravi, Noso ben Elitzur ben Shedeur. But the greatness ultimately was that he occupied that office. The office gave him the greatness, rather, not that he gave the greatness to the office. With regards to the tribe of Yisachar, or the tribe of Torah, Nisana was the greatest of them. But they were all full of great people, great Talmidei Chachamim. So it mentions them as being equal. It's the second category, the Alshich says. The rest of them, their greatness is the fact they represent the tribe. Nashon, independent of the tribe, is a great. So we're not even going to mention he's a Nosi. With regards to Nisano, from the tribe of Yisachar, so representing Torah, we're going to mention he's a Nosi, but no, it's equal. So therefore, we're not going to say he was the representative of theirs. And therefore, now we see there are differences here. Now, these differences, I think, can lead us to a very interesting insight. In the Sedra of Nitzavim, there's an Alshich there, which I think is worthy of our consideration. And then we're going to look at Gemara, and then we're done. You'll probably remember in the Sedra of Nitzavim, it says, Atem Nitzavim hayam kulchem lifnei Hashem. You're all standing here, all of you, in front of Hashem. Elokechem, your God, Roshechem, Shiftechem, Zeknechem, Shatrechem, Kol Yisrael, your heads and the heads of your tribes, etc. You're all here. And then it was ordered, Tapchem, your children, and the whole of the Jewish people. In order to enter into a bris between Hashem. The Alshich says some here which is very, very important. The Alshich says normally when Moshe was standing in front of the Jewish people, he would give honor in the right order that the Jewish people, their status, heads of the tribes first. Aaron came first, he taught the Torah to Aaron, and then the Zakanim and the heads of the tribes, etc. There was a hierarchy. That's the way it had to be. But here in this Posuk, now you're standing in front of God. In front of human beings, we have to give respect to order and to structure and to the greatness of the offices of the Jewish people, heads of tribes, etc. But here you're standing in front of Hashem, and who is to say who is great when it comes to standing in front of Hashem? There's a famous Gemara in Bava Basra, and it's in Daf Yud Omid Beis, if I remember rightly, and it says, famous story about the son of the Yosef Barei the Rabbi Yeshua. The Yosef was the son of Rabbi Yeshua, and the Gemara says the following thing: Cholesh ve'ingid, he fainted, went into a coma, and died. And And then they brought him back. It was brought back to life. Hollis for England. So they brought him back to life. So his father said to his son, when you were dead, when your soul had left your body, what did you see? Your soul for a few moments went up to heaven. What did it see? To which the answer is, what do you see? I saw an upside down world. I saw that the people here are considered to be very great, and heaven were considered not at all to be very great. And the ones here are considered to be irrelevant or very small fry, and heaven are considered to be very, very big. In other words, who we value, there is a structure that you have to respect. And so heads of tribes, etc. But as we said before, there is greatness that comes to you by the fact that you occupy an office, and sometimes the office gets greatness through you. The ultimate greatness is through a person itself. In order to have shalom, in order to have peace, they didn't want to say my tribe's more important than your tribe. Each of the heads of the tribes brought precisely and exactly the same offering as each and every other one. We must guard shalom. All the blessings of the counting are irrelevant unless there's shalom. Even the dead need shalom. So therefore, in order to guarantee the structures and respect has to be given where it has to be given. And that's exactly what the princess did. However, and crucially, that the fact that you do that doesn't in any way eclipse the reality or blind us to the reality that the ultimate greatness is a person himself. Like Nashon ben Aminadab. He was worthy in his own right, irrelevant, irrespective of his office of being Nosi, of being the greatest Jew, because of who he came from and the quality that he inherited from them, as seen by the fact he used that quality. He was willing, and he was a hero of Jewish Amunah and Betochen. Hashem said that this sea isn't there, it's not there. I'm in my mother's arms, and walked through what he thought was a dry land until it actually became dry land. This is a crucial thing to bear in mind. The greatness of the Jewish people ultimately boils down to one Jew. And we all know what it says when Hashem says, when we stood at Mount Sinai, I'm your God. One, I'm speaking to you individually. You're an individual. You count and you matter. Your job, my job, and our job is to work on us so that one day, hopefully, whatever office, whatever role we occupy or take upon ourselves, whether permanently or temporarily within the Jewish people, is enhanced because we took it, not that we are enhanced from the office. The office is enhanced by us. Come back to the Alshich next week. And just to remind you again, if you want to have this Shiur, this weekly Alshich Shiur sponsored, then the name of somebody precious to you, then please yy@rabbiyyy.com. Keep well, keep safe, and have a very wonderful Shabbos. Good Shabbos.